Today we're going to be getting ready for our Florida weave. Now what that means is we have a different method of staking / supporting our tomato plants. Why do you need to do that? Well, if you let your tomatoes sprawl, they have a tendency to pick up a lot more disease, especially in this high humid, high heat environment that we live. But they also make it almost impossible to weed. And weeds are a major problem with every gardener. So let's talk about this for a minute. In the past, I would take one tomato cage. The problem is though, weeding around them is hard. Once you get the tomato plant established, they've grown all the way through the different slots or holes in your cage. It's almost impossible to get them weeded if you're not wanting to crawl on the ground. Now, I'm all for crawling on the ground when necessary, but when you have anywhere from 50 to 150 tomato plants, this year we have 80 some, that's a lot of crawling. So we're going to do the Florida weave. About every 4 tomato plants, we have a T-post. Now, why did I use a T-post? We have 82 million T-posts around here. I got fence all over the place. I bet I have driven thousands of T-posts in my life. So, we had them and we used them. Now for a Florida weave, they're going to be a little tall and it's going to present a couple different challenges, but nothing we can't overcome. I'm going to center my post on my plants, push down where I can, put my fence post driver on top and tap it down. Now I'm going to take my foot and push on the wing to make sure that the fence post is straight the way I want it as I'm driving it down. As soon as I'm sure it's in the ground good enough to support itself, then I can go ahead and really start hammering down. So here we go. And that's all there is to it. Driving fence post is easy. It's a lot of work. Depends on how many you're doing. I'm only going to do 20 or so today. So yeah, it's not that big a deal. In the past, when we were using the tomato cages, I would have to drive a T-post for every tomato cage, which if you do 150 of those, well, let's just say when you're done, you know you've done some work. But we only have to drive about 20 today, and that's a walk in the park, even for a senior citizen like me. Starting to see some weeds, so I'm going to go ahead and break out the hoe and knock out some of these weeds before I go ahead and run my string. Now this is the hoe we're going to use today. This is an oscillating hoe. This is the hoe we prefer to use here because of the Bermuda grass that we have and the sage grass, which are our 2 main weed problems in the garden. The sage grass is because, well, let's face it, in the South, your dirt here just stinks. So it does, even with your soil amendments and everything else to try to keep it down, you have sage grass. Second thing is Bermuda just grows everywhere. It's worse than a weed. It's awful. And this allows us to try to keep track of it. Now, this oscillates, hence the oscillating hoe. It's also the same contraption that we use on most of our wheel hoes. Now, we have other attachments for the wheel hose, but nonetheless, this is what we prefer to use. This is also known as a hula hoe. Anyway, this is what we're going to use to knock out these weeds real fast so we can go ahead and get started with our Florida weave. Weeding is done, and now we're going to start the Florida weave. Unfortunately, I'm running out of time for today. It's time to feed, and I've got to go down and feed, water, and do all the other things that we do every day in the evening, but we'll be back in the morning, I hope. Good morning, and welcome to day 2. It's about 6-ish, and we have incoming weather. I know everyone's shocked. I know I am. That was not unanticipated. So I've got to get this Florida weave, get these things up so that we can have several days of rain. Here we go again. The tools we're going to use today are basically this box of twine. This is agricultural twine, or 6,300 feet. Basically, that's really all you need. You need something sharp to cut with. I've seen people use pipe, and I don't know if any of that works or not. But we're going to try this and see. If I need to go get a piece of pipe, we certainly have lots and lots of pipe around here, at least pieces of it from different projects. But agricultural twine, I got it on Amazon. It was cheap too, by the way. The side of the box, I don't know if you can see this or not, has a couple slots in it, and you can put it on your belt. Now, I can tell you this thing is heavy enough where you don't want to wear your Sunday school belt. You got to have something, some sort of meaty belt of some sort. This thing is not heavy, but it is definitely bulky. So let's go ahead and start our floor to weave and get our first line in. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our string, and we're going to come up about 6 inches or so, and we're going to wrap this thing around here, and we're going to tie it, let's just say 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to go through and we're going to weave around all of the different tomato plants. And when we get to the pole, the next pole, we're going to wrap it around 3 times. Now, why would we do this? It allows the tomato plants to lay and be supported by the string. So away we go. We're going to wrap again around 6 inches, and we're going to go back and forth around these. Now remember, these are pretty small tomato plants, and we're going to go around these things. And now we're at this post. This is because we have a relatively sturdy setup. I'm going to pull this taunt, hold it. We're going to go up here and we're going to pull it. Boy, these tomato plants smell amazing. We're going to wrap it around this pole 3 different times while holding it tight in my right hand. And we're going to move on. We're going to go all the way down the row. Weaving back and forth. Well, I can grow some good tomatoes. These are nice. And again, we're going to hold as tight as we can here. Go up over the top. I suspect a smaller pole would be easier, but this is what we got, so this is what we're going to do. Now I've gotten to the end and I have cut the twine and gone ahead and tied it. Now I'm going to tie another section and go the reverse side of this. So the string is on this side here. Wrap the string around this side of the plant and it will clamp the plant in the middle. Let's take a look at this. Okay, there's our end, and as you see, the plant has got string on both sides. Now, our next one will be the same way, so on and so forth. It's really not that hard a process. The Florida weave has saved us a huge amount of labor. First of all, we have 4 or 5 plants, predominantly 4, in between our T-posts. Why? Well, the T-post is a lot stronger. I've seen people do this with wood stakes, and the stakes are wobbly and all that. T-post is not going to wobble. They're pretty solid. Now, does that mean you have to stretch a little bit more and crawl around on the ground? Yeah, but is it well worth it? Well, I seem to think it is. The second thing is our agricultural twine. Our agricultural twine is a synthetic. The synthetics will not stretch, which is a good thing. The downside is, of course, is when the season's over, you got to come out and cut it out. It doesn't seem to be a big deal, I wouldn't think. I've had to do that with agricultural twine on other things, so I don't see it being a big deal. The good thing about it is weeding, fertilization, if indeed you need to go out and trim some of the, prune some of the leaves and branches off the tomato plants, everything is right there. You're not fighting cages and all this other stuff. So I'm guessing every week, week and a half, we're gonna have to come out and run another set of string. Took me maybe 10, 15 minutes at the most. And the first line, which is what we ran today, is gonna be the hardest. Everything else is gonna go relatively quickly. Again, I've seen people with pieces of pipe to try to make this thing go quicker and all that, and maybe it works, I don't know. That's not how we did it, and probably not how we're gonna do it. But nonetheless, everything seems to work well. Anyway, if you have any questions or comments about the Florida weave, let me know. Please like, subscribe, share, and make a comment. It sure helps the channel out. Until next time, I'll see you down at the barn. We had a question from one of our viewers asking me if I had a farmer tan. Let's look. I'm thinking that's a yes.